Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Nabila Dwi Apriliani. Here I will explain the material about efforts in education on page 2020 until 27. First, educational result is typically classified into two broad categories. First, quantitative and qualitative result. In general, quantitative results use objective measurement to gather numeric data that are used to answer questions. And then, qualitative results, in contrast, focus on understanding social phenomena from the perspective of the human participant in natural setting. Historically, the quantitative approach has dominated education research in the late 20th century. They believe that using quantitative method is highly controlled setting ignore the participant perspective and experience. This is comparison of quantitative and qualitative research. You can read on screenshot this picture. Now, I will discuss more clearly what quantitative research. Quantitative research may be further classified as either experimental or non-experimental. First, experimental research. Research study variables which are characteristics that take on different values across people or things. In experiment, the research seeks to control all other variables that might influence the dependent variable. Second, non-experimental research. The research identifies variables and may look for relationship among them but doesn't manipulate the variable. Major forms of non-experimental research are relationship studies including ex post facto, correlation research, and survey research. Now I will describe the form of non-experimental research. Ex post facto is similar to an experiment. There is no manipulation of control of the independent variable. One must be very careful regarding the conclusion that are drawn about any observed relationship. 2. Correlation research. Correlation research gather data from individuals on two or more variables and then seek to determine if the variables are related. And the last, survey research, also called descriptive research. Survey research use instruments such as questionnaires and interview to gather information from group of individuals. So, the explanation from me for the next material will be explained by Miss Fadila.
Let me introduce myself. My name is Fadila Puspitaningrum. I will continue the presentation from Nabila Dwi Apriliani. Here, I will presenting the material in chapter 2, namely Research Approaches in Education on pages 28 to 33. So, the points I get from the following page are about qualitative research and also typical stages in research. Qualitative researchers seek to understand a phenomenon by focusing on the total picture rather than breaking it down into variables. There are many types of qualitative research. Here, I will explain one by one. Number 1 is basic interpretative study. A basic interpretative study provides descriptive accounts targeted to understanding a phenomenon using data that might be collected in a variety of ways, such as interview, observation, and document review. Number 2 is a case study. A case study is a type of ethnographic research study that focuses on a single unit, such as one individual, one group, one organization, or one program. And number 3 is document or content analysis. Content analysis focuses on analyzing and interpreting recorded material to learn about human behavior. The material may be public records, textbooks, letters, films, type diaries, stamp reports, or other documents. Number 4 is ethnography. Ethnography is an in-depth study of naturally occurring behavior within a culture or social group. And number 5 is grounded theory. Grounded theory research is designed to develop a theory of social phenomena based on the file data collected in a study. Experience with the data generates insights, hypotheses, and questions, which researchers pursue with further data collection. Number 6 is historical research. Historical research analyzes documents and artifacts or uses interviews with eyewitnesses to gain insight into past events. Number 7 is narrative inquiry. In narrative inquiry, research examines the story people tell about their life and co-construct a narrative analysis of those stories. The researchers and those telling their stories have an equal voice in determining the meanings attributed to the experiences. And number 8, or the last, is phenomenological studies. Phenomenological studies begin with the assumption that multiple realities are rooted in subjects' perspective. Furthermore, I will explain typical stages in research. Number 1 is selecting a problem. The first step is to select the problem to investigate. The problem should be consequential enough to warrant investigation. Moreover, the answer to the problem is not already available, but the means for finding answer are available. Quantitative researchers typically state the problem in the form of a specific question about the relationship between variables. Meanwhile, qualitative researchers begin a general topic of interest. Number 2 is reviewing the literature on the problem. Researchers should thoroughly review the relevant literature to gain more understanding and insight into the problem and to determining what the research might already have been done. And then number 3 is designing the research. The investigator next plans how to conduct research to answer the question. Quantitative research maintains that once this research plan is set forth, it must be followed, while in qualitative research, the design is flexible and may change during the investigation if appropriate. And then number 4 is collecting the data. The next step involves executing the research plan. Quantitative research uses a wide variety of instruments to gather data, including tests, questionnaires, rating, and attitude scales. Moreover, qualitative researchers also have a toolbook of data gathering techniques, including in-depth interviewing, participant observation, and document analysis. And then number 5 is analyzing the data. The data collected in research must be analyzed. Quantitative data are usually in the form of numbers that researchers analyze using various statistical procedures. Meanwhile, qualitative data generally take the form of words, such as description, observation, impressions, recording, and the like. And number 6 is interpreting the findings and stating conclusion. The researchers next tries to interpret the findings in terms of the research problem. The quantitative research typically makes statements about the probability that such a finding is due to the chance and research a conclusion about hypotheses, while qualitative research presents their interpretation and explanation in narrative form. And then number 7, or the last, is reporting results. Researchers must make their procedures, findings, and conclusions available in a form intelligible to others who may be interested. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Endang Terlestari and I will continue the presentation from my friends Nabila Dwi Apriliani and Fadila Puspitaningrum. In this video, I will explain about questions that educational researchers ask, basic and applied research, and language of research. The first material is questions that educational researchers ask. We will learn about the theoretical questions and practical questions. Theoretical questions. Questions of a theoretical nature are those asking what is it, or how does it occur, or why does it occur. Research with a theoretical orientation may focus on either developing new theories or testing existing theories. Probably more common in quantitative educational research are studies that aim to test already existing theories. It is usually more realistic to seek the deduced hypothesis from existing theories of learning, personality, motivation, and so forth, and to test that hypothesis. If the hypotheses are logical deduction from the theory, and the empirical tests provide evidence that support the hypothesis, then this evidence also provides support for the theory. Practical questions. Many questions in educational research are direct and practical, aimed at solving specific problems that educators may encounter in everyday activities. These questions are relevant for educational research because they deal with actual problems at the level of practice and lead to an improvement in the teaching-learning process. Such practical questions are, for example, how effective is peer tutoring in elementary school classroom? How does teaching children cognitive strategies affect their reading comprehension? And others. These practical questions can be investigated just as scientifically as the theoretical problems. The two types of questions differ primarily on the basis of the goals they hope to achieve rather than on the study's level of sophistication. The second material is basic and applied research. Basic research is research aimed at obtaining empirical data used for formulate and expand theory. Its essential aim is to expand the frontiers of knowledge without regard to practical application. Applied research aims to solve an immediate practical problem. It is research performed in relation to actual problems and under the conditions in which they appear in practice. Without applied research, educators can often solve their problems at the appropriate level of complexity, that is, in the classroom teaching-learning process. The third material is language of research. In this material, we will learn about constructs, variables, and constants. Any scientific discipline needs a specific language for describing and summarizing observation in that area. One of these terms is constructs. Constructs, to summarize their observation and to provide explanation of behavior, scientists create constructs. Constructs are abstractions that cannot be observed theoretically but are usable in interpreting empirical data and in the theory building. For example, people can observe that individuals differ in what they can learn and how quickly they can learn it. Constructs may be defined in a way that gives their general meaning, or they may be defined in terms of the operation by which they will be measured or manipulated in a particular study. The former type of definition is called a constitutive definition. The latter is known as an operational definition. Constitutive definitions. A constitutive definition is a formal definition in which term is defined by using other terms. For example, intelligence may be defined as the ability to think abstractly or the capacity to acquire knowledge. Operational definition. An operational definition ascribes meaning to a construct by specifying operation that researchers must perform to measure or manipulate the constructs. Operational definitions help the researchers bridge the gap between the theoretical and the observable. Certainly, an operational definition does not accuse the full scientific meaning of any concept. It is very specific in meaning. Its purpose is to delimit a term to ensure that everyone concerned understands the particular way term is being used. For example, a researcher makes a state. For this study, intelligence is defined as the subject's score on the Fackel's intelligence scale for children. Variables. The type of variables. Variables can be categorical or they can be continuous. Where researchers classify subjects by sorting them into mutually exclusive groups, the attribute on which they base the classification is termed a categorical variable. Home language, county of residence, father's principal occupation, and school in which enrolled are examples of categorical variables. The simplest type of categorical variable has only two mutually exclusive classes and is called a dichotomous variable. Male, female, citizen, alien, and pass-fail are dichotomous variables. Some categorical variables has more than two classes. Examples are educational level, religious affiliation, and state of birth. When an attribute has an infinite number of values within a range, it is a continuous variable. If a child grows from 40 to 41 inch, he or she passes through an infinite number of heights, weight, age, and achievement test score are examples of continuous variables. The most important classification of variables is on the basis of their use within the research under consideration when they are classified as independent variables or dependent variables. Independent variables are antecedent to dependent variables and are known or are hypothesized to influence the dependent variable, which is the outcome. In experimental studies, the treatment is the independent variable and the outcome is the dependent variable. In a study of the relationship between self-confidence and popularity in high school students, either variable could be considered independent or dependent. It is possible for a variable to be an independent variable in one study and a dependent variable in another. Whether a variable is independent or dependent depends on the purpose of the study. If you investigate the effect of motivation on achievement, then motivation is the independent variable. The last is constants. The opposite of variable is constants. A constant is a fixed value within a study. If all subjects in a study are 8 grades, then grade level is a constant. In a study comparing the attitudes towards a school of high school girls who plan professional careers with those who do not plan professional careers, high school girls constitute a constant. Whether they plan professional careers is the independent variable and their attitudes constitute the dependent variable. Okay, that is explanation about research approaches in education from our group. I hope my explanation is easy to understand and thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.